Tom.
Oh, sorry. So tell me, do you know a lot about Pokemon?
You bet.
Well said. In that case, I'll make it say that you can use the PokeDex on your Rotom phone.
You obtained the PokeDex. Tom Dex acquired. And for those of you that are new to my content with this, there's a very good reason why we refer to it as the Tom Dex. Well, let's go into it and figure it out.
Grookey, the chimp Pokemon. It doesn't want to work, it just wants to bang on the drum all day. Hoot Hoot, the owl Pokemon. Despite having its leg tucked up inside of it, some people believe that it only has one leg, or that its other leg was chopped off. They're very confused. Rookidee, the tiny bird Pokemon. It may look angry, because it is. It's always angry. Squovet, the cheeky Pokemon. Don't you just want to pinch those cheeks? Look at the widow cheeks on him. Go ahead and pinch him. Wooloo, the sheep Pokemon. It's shaped like Friend and is very soft. You have soft Friend now. Meowth, the scratch cat Pokemon. Always on the hunt for gold. It just hunts gold wherever it goes. It's like Indiana Jones, except instead of artifacts, it just wants shiny things and gold. All of the gold. Blipbug, the larva Pokemon. In addition to constantly reading, it also likes to eat the pages of books, therefore absorbing the knowledge and making sure nobody else can have it. Nickit, the fox Pokemon. Not only does it steal all the valuables in one's house, but it also steals people's souls. Choodle, the snapping Pokemon. Despite its ability to bite a lot, it is still teething, so it's going to bite everything and anything. It will bite you. It will bite me. It will even bite Yamper, the puppy Pokemon. Despite its very short legs and sausage-like body, this thing can run very fast, possibly charged by electricity of what its type is. Eevee, the evolution Pokemon. It can never decide what it wants to be when it grows up, so it just kind of dives into a pile of rocks and see what happens. Pikachu, the mouse Pokemon. Generally as the mascot of the entire series of this game, many other mouse Pokemon try to jam their fingers into electrical sockets to achieve the popularity that Pikachu has. Buttlebee, the digging Pokemon. As it digs around and around, sometimes it pops its ears up out of the ground and people mistake them for Tiny Dugtrio. Metapod, the cocoon Pokemon. Ever the depressed one Metapod is, it misses the carefree days of being a Caterpie when it can crawl around and actually have limbs. Tyrogue, the scuffle Pokemon. It's always trying to get into fights with Pokemon that are larger than it. If it fails to do so, it just gets angrier and tries again. Every time it loses is another experience learned for Tyrogue. Pidove, the tiny pigeon Pokemon. It is always on the search for bread and bread-like products, often going into bakeries and in garbage and off the backs of subways to try and find more bread. It really likes bread. Nincada, the trainee Pokemon. As it tries to train as a ninja, it often tries to blend in underground because it's ground type. However, this will be useless once it evolves into Ninjask. Dottler, the Rad Dome Pokemon. Constantly absorbing radiation from the sun is how it's able to function properly. If you cover it with a sheet, eventually it'll just slow down and shut down. Snuffle, the flailing Pokemon. Often hiding out amongst stuffed animals. If you touch it, you'll probably get punched. Stunky, the skunk Pokemon. It smells so horrifically bad that people who come within 100 feet of it are immediately passed out from the smell. It's just awful. And its face looks like a butt. Gossifleur, the flowering Pokemon. It is very stuck up and will try to only go after the prettiest and most beautiful things. If something ugly approaches it, it will attack aggressively. Zigzagoon, the tiny raccoon Pokemon. As a big fan of the band Kiss, it painted itself up like that, but realized it used permanent makeup. Pancham, the playful Pokemon. What starts off as playful antics will eventually turn into ruffian behavior as soon as it grows up. Thwacky, the beat Pokemon. Having gained an extra stick, it can now effectively play the drums a lot better, thus doing better for its drummer's namesake, Neil Peart. Vulpix, the fox Pokemon. Often trying to compete with Nickit in terms of popularity, it doesn't steal anything and tries to befriend people. However, when the people are obsessing over Vulpix, Nickit steals everything from them. Diglett, the mole Pokemon. It is actually the finger of a giant. If you try to whack it with a hammer because you think it's whack-a-mole, the giant will get angry and use attacks from underground. Timber, the muscular Pokemon. In order to get around gym fees, it just hauls a giant piece of lumber around to get fit, therefore angering all of the gyms in the area that want its money. Woobat, the bat Pokemon. Its nose is so cavernous that even with the heart stamp on it, I don't know where I was going with this. It has a heart-shaped nose and its sinus is bigger than its mouth. That's really weird. Corvisquire, the Raven Pokemon. After years and years of training, it finally achieved Squire under a Corviknight. Having to train under it, though, means carrying around all the equipment. Thievul, the fox Pokemon. With its dastardly mustache and mask, it makes a great villain in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Meowth, the Scratch Cat Pokemon. It has grown a large beard and lived in a cave for so long that the luster on its charm has dulled and it became feral. Milcery, the cream Pokemon. Born from Miltank, it... Oh my god. Pumpkaboo, the pumpkin Pokemon. It is the spirit of all the jack-o'-lanterns that are left out for months after Halloween. Remember to throw out your jack-o'-lanterns after Halloween, kids. Electrike, the lightning Pokemon. It runs as quickly as it has static electricity stored up, so if it's overcharged, it will run at the speed of sound and break many sound barriers. Wooper, the waterfish Pokemon. Its vocal cords haven't quite developed yet, as it will when it becomes a Quagsire. Dwebble, the rock-in Pokemon. Due to pollution, you see plenty of more Dwebble hiding out in tin cans. This could possibly make Dwebble a bug steel type. Quagsire, the waterfish Pokemon. It has an easygoing nature. It doesn't care if it bumps its head on boats and boulders while... Carkol, the coal Pokemon. As it wheels around as a minecart, it likes to go faster and faster, often ignoring safety regulations and crashing into walls. Wobbuffet, the patient Pokemon. Its tail is actually the real Pokemon, and the head just takes all the blows. However, the punching bag has quite a lot of personality, so people often mistake it for the actual Pokemon. Farfetch, the wild duck Pokemon. Galarian form. It's a punk kid who's trying to wave around a club like he's a tough guy, but in reality, all he needs is some structure. When you think you're alone on the water, at some points, you will hear it off in the distance. Carp! Toxel, the baby Pokemon. In a world of creepy Muppet dinosaurs, it often says, "I'm the baby, gotta love me." Eldegoss, the cotton bloom Pokemon. Oftentimes when people find Eldegoss, they pick it up and try to blow all the fluffy seeds off of it, making it bald. But if they manage to do it, their wish comes true. Swirlix, the candy floss Pokemon. This is England after all. Very popular in the Galar region, it is often eaten for its candy goodness. Minchino, the chinchilla Pokemon. Being the neat freak that it is, it's constantly trying to clean up the dirt, but the dirt itself is dirty. So how can it clean that which is dirty in its primal form? Arrokuda, the Rush Pokemon. Unassociated with the band Rush and Neil Peart, the Thwacky currently, it often just tries to rush into places and bite people on their buttocks. Cottony, the Cotton Puff Pokemon. Often mistaken for candy floss, people try to eat it, but then they realize it's not Swirlix and promptly spit it back out. Binacle, the two-handed Pokemon. In an attempt to be the greatest comedy duo of all time, these two often tell jokes while making very silly faces. Unfortunately, they're not very funny and often get into fights. Noibat, the sound wave Pokemon. With its large ears, it can pick up things from miles and miles away. Usually in doing so, it helps the police narc on drug deals and whatnot. Dubwool, the sheep Pokemon. Having strengthened its legs more since being a Wooloo, it now runs at people as opposed to rolling. This makes headbutts a lot easier. Delos, the sea slug Pokemon. As opposed to slithering around like most slugs would, it actually has tiny little feet it uses to walk around on. Barboach, the whiskers Pokemon. Often mistaken for a catfish, this barboach is actually a type of fish called a loach. However, the whiskers on it make it very catfish-like, so people try to call it a catfish. Stunfisk, the trap Pokemon. Hunters often use these things to catch wild bewares, so that way they can hunt them for their fur. The Stunfisk gets a pretty decent meal by eating the beware's foot. Wimpod, the Turntail Pokemon. It is so wimpy and frightened that even the smallest little bug will cause it to run away in fear. It is so afraid that it hides under the covers of its bed every night. Yes, Wimpod has a bed. Dreadnought, the Bite Pokemon. In previous lifetimes, Dreadnought has said to appear massive, over 20 stories tall, and take down cities. Sometimes it will retract into its shell and its rocket boosters will take it off into the sky. Fear Dreadnought. Scraggy, the Shedding Pokemon. After it sheds its skin, it wears it like pants. It does this because it sees people wearing pants and it wants to be people. Boltund, the Dog Pokemon. After growing much larger legs, it now loves to run and run. As it runs faster and faster, it gains more and more electricity, therefore making it great for the fox hunt against evils. Shuckle, the Mold Pokemon. It likes to ferment berries into juice, but also on occasion it will ferment berries into wine. Shuckle likes to get, blazed. Nope, not blazed, that's weed. Likes to get hammered on the weekends. Alcremie, the Cream Pokemon. After being whipped and stirred and whipped, it solidified into stiff peaks and is now Alcremie. Sirfetch'd, the Wild Duck Pokemon. After learning the way of the sword and becoming a noble knight, it no longer feels the need to lash out in anger at other people. Noctowl, the Owl Pokemon. With its laser deadly stare, it can see anything and everything. It makes ghost type solid. It makes the invisible visible. It makes the impossible possible. Row, fight the power. Sock, the Karate Pokemon. When it's not practicing martial arts, you can usually find it on Sesame Street with its roommate Throw. Sudowoodo, the Imitation Pokemon. It likes to stand perfectly still and pretend it's a tree because in its mind, it is a tree. When it's disturbed and reminded that it's not a tree, it lashes out in anger and attacks. Coughing, the Poison Gas Pokemon. Born in pollution, it will probably never change its ways of polluting the air. It feels saddened by this. Sizzlipede, the Radiator Pokemon. It sizzles on the ground like bacon. If you find bacon in your pan that you weren't cooking, it's probably a Sizzlipede.
And then from there, he'd probably burn your house down.
Litwick, the Candle Pokemon. While a very handy Pokemon to have while the power's out, being a ghost type means that while you're trying to find it while the power's out, will be very, very spooky. Machoke, the Superpower Pokemon. Often running after people in the wild area, it demands that people touch its bicep. If you don't want to know what happens. Corphish, the Ruffian Pokemon. Often used in Jambalaya, Corphish are very popular in the bayou. Mr. Mime, the Dancing Pokemon, Galarian form. After being nurtured in the ground for a very, very long time, he popped out and is now ready to serve the Gem Army. Cramorant, the Gulp Pokemon. It tries to stuff its gullet full of fish, but occasionally it stuffs it too much and starts choking. When this happens, it has to have the Heimlich maneuver done by another Cramorant. Esper, the Restraint Pokemon. It constantly watches people while it sleeps, thinking of all the ways it could possibly harm them. Not that it wants to, it just thinks that because of its unrestrained power that it has to constantly keep hidden at all times, it thinks that it might kill people, so it stares at them. Applin, the Apple Core Pokemon. People often believe that it's just a creature inside of an apple, but it's actually the apple itself, and the eyes blinking on top are not really there. Orbeetle, the 7-Spot Pokemon. Its brain is contained within that shell, so it is very, very smart and thinks it's better than you. Liepard, the Cruel Pokemon. Having lost the ability to pick up items from its time as a purloin, it now goes around and tries to pick up stuff with its mouth, including organs. Flapple, the Apple Wing Pokemon. After eating a sour apple, it was like, oh god, and then burst from its normal apple form. Remember, it is the apple. The thing flapping the wings is just an extension. Barraskewda, the Skewer Pokemon. It charges very quickly and pierces anything in its path. Usually that's how it gets bites to eat. If you see a trail of just circles in, like holes in walls and whatnot, you can tell that Barraskewda has been there. Goldeen, the Goldfish Pokemon. While it is described as a goldfish, those fins are actually just taped on and it's really just an egg with a weird face on it. Duskull, the Requiem Pokemon. The actual skeleton is just a shell. What's the living part is the ball in the center. Its orb looks like two eyes when in actuality it's not an eye at all, but just the soul haunting the skull. Dugtrio, the Mole Pokemon. After having the one finger up, the giant that lives underground decided to hold 3 fingers up instead. Now, if you piss it off even more, it'll get the entire fist out there, which is why I can use Sucker Punch. Yamask, the spirit Pokemon. Instead of, Galarian form, excuse me. Instead of having a mask on its face, it has a tablet on it from when it was technology instead of a human. Yeah. Silicobra, the sand snake Pokemon. Oftentimes burrowing underground, it oftentimes pops its little snoot out to try and sniff for food, despite the fact that its snoot doesn't do anything, its tongue smells. Colossal, the coal Pokemon. It was genetically engineered to be the mascot for the coal industry. Now that the industry is slowly dying, Colossal doesn't have much to do except go around to book signings of his new book, If I Was Renewable Energy. Axew, the tusk Pokemon. Oftentimes, if you see an angry Axew sharpening its tusk on a rock, it means that it's having a grudge against somebody else and wants them dead. Preferably with their sharp tusks. Arctozolt, the fossil Pokemon. Oh God! Oh no! What have you done? Oh Jesus Christ, no! Oh dear God, why? Please just kill it! Put it out of its misery! Wheezing, the poison gas Pokemon. Galarian form. After discovering a clean, renewable source of energy that produces a very pleasant smelling odor, Galarian Wheezing became the richest Pokemon in all of the Galar region. Even richer than Chairman Rose. It now spends its time sponsoring rock bands. Rillaboom, the drummer Pokemon. After growing in size and strength, he was able to whittle down his sticks into actual drumsticks and carve a tree trunk into a drum. He is the most badass drummer this side of the Galar region. Berserker, the Viking Pokemon. Often sailing around the seas, it plunders villages nearby. A lot of people wonder why these creatures came to Galar in the first place, just to plunder. Nobody really knows. Sinistea, the black tea Pokemon. It likes to grip the cup and make itself look like a normal teacup that isn't broken. However, the tea itself is the ghost, not the cup. Poltegeist, the black tea Pokemon. Every now and again, it will pour itself out into a cup for people to drink. Once ingested, it makes their insides feel real good. What? Morgrim, the devious Pokemon. It likes to hang around its room listening to heavy metal and emo music. When asked to clean its room, it yells at its mother. Toxtricity, the punk Pokemon. Generally playing its guitar louder than everyone else in its band, it got kicked out. Therefore, it gets very angry and shoots off electricity everywhere. Hatchroom, the serene Pokemon. The hat is actually the Pokemon, and the cute face on there is just bait for unsuspecting prey that it might eat. Helioptile, the generator Pokemon. It runs through the desert with lightning speed. As it runs, the friction it gains from running builds up electricity, then it shocks people to death. Arctivish, the fossil Pokemon. It is a fish that is constantly cold and also possibly in pain. As you can see, its mouth is facing upward, as this was the way it ate in prehistoric times? Sandaconda, the sand snake Pokemon. Often mistaken for a giant chocolate cornet, it springs from its hole when people get close and bite them. This is generally how it gets prey to eat. Morpeko, the two-sided Pokemon. When it gets hit, it realizes how hungry it is and gets very hangry. When it's hangry, it doesn't like anyone. Rhyhorn, the spikes Pokemon. While perceived as being very slow, once they start running, they cannot stop. Even through mountains, even through steel, even through titanium, they will just keep running and running until they stop. Wait. Dusclops, the beacon Pokemon. When a living Pokemon was wrapped up in mummy bandages and forgotten about, it eventually became Dusclops. Togedemaru, the roly-poly Pokemon. While it may seem soft and cuddly, it is actually covered in a very fine steel. Each one of its individual hairs are like pointed barbs. If you hug it, you will get stabbed. Phalanx, the formation Pokemon. Comprised of 6 parts. Their cries have been translated to be them just saying, "This is Sparta," over and over again. Greedent, the greedy Pokemon. Despite its jolly, happy looks and the uncle you like to see around Christmas and Thanksgiving, it's constantly bumming money off of your parents. Crustle, the stone home Pokemon. After a while, when it outgrows its shell of a shell, the piece of tectonic earth that it stole from some quarry somewhere, it donates it to a local children's hospital. Why it does this? I have no idea. Gnome, the worm Pokemon. Often rolling around in ice and snow, it slowly covers itself with more and more ice. But when a lot of it builds up on it, it can no longer move except by rolling. Dracozolt, the fossil Pokemon. With its exposed cross-section there, it is very prone to infections. Dracovish, the fossil Pokemon. Of all the fossil Pokemon to come out of the Galar region, this one appears to be in the least amount of pain and has the most trouble-free birth. Octillery, the jet Pokemon. Often shooting ink and water out of its snout, it can also sometimes breathe fire. This is due to the ink pouch getting into its burning core. I have no idea what this thing is or why it has a burning core. Pyukumuku, the sea cucumber Pokemon. This thing is a jerk and will kill donkeys at its leisure. Much often to the dismay of the traders who own those donkeys. Graplock, the Jujitsu Pokemon. With its 8 tentacles, it only actually uses 4 of them, 3 of them to walk and 1 of them as a belt. This belt signifies how good it is at Jujitsu. Wailord, the float whale Pokemon. If you found it anywhere in the ocean, that seems like it'd be normal, right? But some Wailord can be found in very tight spaces. How this is? Who the hell knows? Clavapus, the tantrum Pokemon. Wanting to be the world champion in boxing, it took up lessons from Crab Brawler, then ran away when it turned into the hideous thing that it evolves into. Mr. Rhyme, the comedian Pokemon. After realizing that miming was the lowest form of entertainment, he decided to go on tour as a comedian. Doing this, he broke his vow of silence and also is, very good at pratfalls and being a clown. Duraludon, the alloy Pokemon. Often confused for a stapler, it often hangs around office buildings. Not because of its stapler-like qualities, but because it is envious of the building. Snorlax, the sleeping Pokemon. Having been on its back for 20 years, it finally decided to get up. Now that it sees life in a vertical view, it is more than happy to stay that way. Snorlax, the sleeping Pokemon, Gigantamax form. Having lied down again, it stayed there for so long that it grew in size after everything it ate and even began to grow its own ecosystem. Duraludon, the Pokemon. Having grown a taste for human flesh after standing outside of office buildings, it begins to eat people. However, the people don't really mind, as it can just leave any time through the door on its backside, and it's actually very comfortable in there. Clang, the gear Pokemon. After one of the gears in Kling grew to be much larger, the other gear starts to grow jealous and sometimes doesn't turn properly. Abomasnow, the Frost Tree Pokemon. Having been confused for the Galarian Darumaka, it gets angry and uses Woodhammer. Everybody knows Darumaka can't use Woodhammer. Stonejourner, the Big Rock Pokemon. During medieval times, around the time of King Arthur, a wizard cast a spell on Stonehenge and brought it to life. Those Stonehenge pieces bred and made more, which is why these things are everywhere now. Beartic, the freezing Pokemon. After it evolves from Cubchoo, the snot running down its nose freezes into a beard. It can't get it off and is very angry because of it. Corviknight, the raven Pokemon. Its carnivorous tendencies hold no bounds, as it being a gigantic bird that no one can compare to, it often swoops down into cities and steals children to eat. Luna, the Dream Eater Pokemon. After the first games where one NPC was like, I wish there was a Pokemon that was pink with a floral pattern, she got to work to genetically engineer her own Pokemon. And they bred. Whiscash, the Whiskers Pokemon. Its whiskers are able to sense earthquakes, so that way it can take credit for them when it says it's going to create an earthquake. Eternatus, the gigantic Pokemon. Being the largest Pokemon in existence, it doesn't have a lot of friends in size, so it uses its powers to make giant Pokemon so it can become friends with them. People often mistake its appearance for being very evil. Eternatus, the gigantic Pokemon. Having grown even bigger now due to its own power, it is upset that there are no Pokemon who can even rival its size at all ever for all time. It just goes on a rampage after becoming very upset. Charmander, the lizard Pokemon. Its tail is actually numb, so the flame on its tail doesn't bother it at all. In fact, 90% of the time it doesn't notice it. There's a little bit of an existential crisis when Charmander realizes that its tail is on fire. Zacian, the warrior Pokemon. Having retired from being a hero, it lives the good life in the lap of luxury as a trainer's pet. It is a good doggo. A very good guard doggo indeed. Type Null, the synthetic Pokemon. Just like the fossil Pokemon, it was too mashed horribly together with the DNA of a bunch of different Pokemon. It is said that this thing is supposed to have the DNA combination to make up God, but it didn't quite work out. Slowpoke, the slow Pokemon. The 3 wrinkles on its forehead produce a Wi-Fi signal.